Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Are You For Real? Fact-Based Learning in a Clickbait World. My name is Chris Heinz. I'm the Director of Customer Experience here at Britannica Education. With me, I have my colleague, Dr. Jane King. She's one of our subject matter experts for Expedition Learn and our Britannica Education team. So we are happy here to be with you, to be able to speak to a lot of our content here and how this can really help your students navigate some misinformation and disinformation that they come across out in the world. So our agenda for today, we'll go through our quick introductions here, talk a little bit about who Britannica is as an organization, aside from being an organization that has been around for a very long time, 257 years, as we learned in the pregame show. So I'll speak a little bit to Britannica and our Britannica education team. Then we'll really dive into Expedition Learn, speak a little bit to developing background knowledge and helping students to evaluate current events. We'll go into a little bit of content about our special offer for Expedition Learn and then some Q&A at the end as well. Anyone who attends this session here, anyone who registered and was unable to make the session, you'll also get a copy of the recording of this webinar, in addition to a lot of really great follow-up content from our team as well. So look for that in your emails. You will get a copy of this recording. And then if you have any questions as we go through, please communicate those in the chat. Jane, myself, and our colleague Anika, we will be monitoring the chat throughout the session as well, to make sure that we are addressing your questions, your thoughts, concerns as we go through the session today. So don't be shy, feel free to share, and we will do our best to provide as the best information that we can. All right, so moving forward here, a little bit about who Britannica Education is. So we are the education wing of the Encyclopedia Britannica organization. Our purpose is really to empower educators. We want you to be able to create engaging, meaningful learning experiences to ignite curiosity in your students. And we do that through a few different ways. We have a very diverse collection of digital solutions. So we have, many of you may be familiar with our Britannica School or Britannica Library solutions, Expedition Learn, which is what we'll go into today. But we have a lot of different platforms that we provide for educators to really help meet your needs in the classroom. We also have a very tailored customer support team. So we have a customer success team that works with our state and district partners. We do our best to make sure that onboarding is smooth and that we're meeting your needs as a partner. And finally, we have professional learning opportunities as well. My team is heavily involved in that. So, as customer experience, we do a lot of work with our professional learning to really help take that product enhancement and really to help provide the best training and support possible for educators. So that's who we are as an organization, but we're really dedicated to igniting curiosity in your students and providing the means for them to do that. So, what we're going to go into today is Expedition Learn. So Expedition Learn is our supplemental curriculum resource. It has about 400 plus science and social studies standards aligned lessons with assessments. So this is not just a reference database. This has plenty of content that is developed by our subject matter expert team, content written by our experts that's fact checked, objective, leveled, and translated, but comes with assessments and data for educators to help inform your instruction and provide some support for your students as well. Additionally, as we go through, you'll see there's a lot of really engaging media content. All of this is bespoke content developed for the Expedition Learn platform, but you'll see a lot of really great videos, engaging infographics, diagrams, graphs, maps, and more. So really trying to provide kind of that multimodal instruction for your students through this resource that gives them a lot of really great information and helps them to sift through misinformation as well. And that brings us to our headlines. So Jane, I'm going to kick it over to you. Jane's going to talk a little bit about kind of the challenges and what we're up against with what our students are experiencing out there in the world.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. So as you know, kids, especially middle school students, they often have a lot of questions about current events. Maybe they're hearing things from caregivers or seeing posts on TikTok or Snapchat or other social media, or maybe there's even a few who are listening to the news on the radio or on the TV. Some of these headlines represent legitimate sources of information, while others are misinformation or disinformation. And how can we help students tell the difference between those and really get comfortable with evaluating what they're reading and seeing? So today we'll talk about some of those strategies for helping students evaluate sources and improve their media literacy. Are we still seeing the deck, Chris, or did we lose that?
My
Chris, I think.
apologies. I got kicked out of Zoom.
Oh,
I'm so
goodness.
sorry. Bear with
No
me for one
problem.
second. I'll get us back up and running. I apologize to everyone here. But I think we're back. So,
Okay. Well,
okay.
this is a good transition. I want to ask you all a question. What is the most interesting current event or headline your students have asked about recently? If you have a good one, or even if whatever you have, just type it into the chat, and let's talk about what we're seeing from students. So while we're waiting for some responses to come in, I'll just talk about a few that I've seen recently. Um, like the extinct dire wolves that were brought back to life through genetic engineering. You know, is that true, or are they just gray wolves with a little bit of dire wolf DNA inserted into their genome? The ancient copy of the Magna Carta that Harvard University purchased for $30. What is that document? Why is it important? And how does it apply to our government today? And then of course, there's health issues out there. Measles outbreaks, the measles outbreak in Texas may be coming up for students.
Yeah, and
Let's
I
see.
see, yeah, in the chat, I mean, so we had a comment here about sixth graders wanting to know about legislation and its context, right? And not necessarily being equipped to read the legislation as a whole, but really then providing some of that context for legislation. So, they may have questions that we can't always necessarily direct them to the source material, right? That it might not be
Mhm.
appropriate for them to do that. But what we can do is we can provide some support, we can provide some background knowledge to help support them. And so we'll be going into that shortly. The
All
other
right.
thing, oh,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead,
Jane.
Chris.
So the other thing that we noticed, and I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the MIST assessment, which is from the University of Cambridge, and it has a number of different headlines, 10 that are real, 10 that are fake, and it asked folks to identify which are real headlines and which are fake. Because even as you see up here on the screen, right, some of these headlines here, they're just not real headlines, right? They're fake information. And what the misinformation showed us was that as adults were looking through these different headlines, some that were real and some that were fake or developed by ChatGPT, what they found was that younger adults were actually worse than older adults at identifying false headlines. That the age group 65 and older scored significantly higher than the age group of 18 to 29. And they didn't take data from anyone under the age of 18, but I think we can kind of extrapolate that, our students are struggling with these skills as well. So how can we really help them to develop knowledge and develop and evaluate some of the current events in science in particular? And one area that we hear a lot of misinformation in the world today is around the pandemic, right? That even to this day, that we're getting lots of headlines and kind of postmortem and things that talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, but don't always have accurate information. So Jane is going to go through a lesson that we have in Expedition Learn to talk about how we can use this resource to really help provide that context in more of a true fact-based platform.
Yes, thanks, Chris. Um, as Chris said, there are often headlines about disease and disease outbreaks in the news. We talked a little bit about the measles outbreak. And with this lesson, students build the general knowledge about epidemics and pandemics that will help them think critically and evaluate the validity of sources where they're getting information. And maybe even we can dissuade some fears about their own health and their own health risks. So Chris is going to jump over to the lesson on the actual expedition site so that we can see it in action. So here we're looking at one of our fact-based articles that's included with this lesson. The article includes a clear description of the importance of gathering data and analyzing that data when evaluating information about disease and disease outbreaks. And we know that legitimate sources of information are always researched back. So that's a really important idea to convey in this lesson. The data is also presented in graphs and maps embedded in the lesson for student evaluation. And we also have a career connection text box. I think that's a little bit lower on the page, Chris. There's the map. Yep, there it is. That highlights how data analysis is a critical workforce skill for epidemiologists. And then this page also includes an assessment question that asks students to apply the lesson concepts to a new scenario. So all of our assessment questions are always that higher order thinking to get kids to really think critically and be able to apply what they're learning to different scenarios. Okay, Chris, I think we can hop back to the deck and go to the next slide. So as we saw in the article on the site, all Expedition Learn lessons contain a richer array of graphics and other media types. On the left side here is a graph of polio cases in the US from 1920 to 2019. And this graph illustrates again the importance of using data and data analysis to understand disease outbreaks. And it also clearly shows a cause and effect relationship between the introduction of a polio vaccine in 1955 and the dramatic drop in cases after that. So those are really important concepts that students can learn by analyzing the graphics that we include in our lessons. And then the map on the right is a data visualization of COVID-19 cases. And this actually helps students understand the definition of the term pandemic by showing that COVID cases occurred all around the world. And then we use this map as a stimulus for a claims, evidence, and reasoning assessment question. So here that's shown on this slide. In this type of question, we're asking students to evaluate a claim based on evidence and then to use scientific reasoning in that evaluation. And I already mentioned that the assessment questions are really all higher order thinking. They allow students to correlate and apply their knowledge in new contexts and to develop those super important critical thinking and analytical skills that they need to evaluate current events. Okay, so after completing that great lesson on epidemics and pandemics, students have now hopefully developed their background knowledge and they have a really great foundation for evaluating current news stories, and they can make and defend their own claims about disease and disease outbreaks. These graphic organizers can help them do that and help them organize their thoughts. So here we're seeing the evaluating resources and the claim, evidence, reason graphic organizers. And these are available to download on the Teach Britannica site. And Chris is going to go into that site and show you where you can get all these great resources.
Yeah, so Teach Britannica is our newest resource. It's open access to all educators and pairs really well with our Britannica resources. And so, as Jane mentioned, you can really extend the learning from that lesson by using the content that you see here in Teach Britannica. Graphic organizers have always been a very popular piece of what Britannica Education has offered. I once made the mistake of, in a session with a group of library media specialists, I made the mistake of showing the graphic organizers at the beginning, and one of the ladies in the room, she just didn't hear a word I said for the rest of the session because she pointed and clicked and downloaded every one of these graphic organizers to her device. But when she left, she said it was the best professional development that she'd ever been to. So she did leave with something tangible, something that she, could use in the classroom. But these graphic organizers can be really nice ways to represent complex ideas. All of these are printable and also fillable PDF forms, and you can download them directly to your device and use them to supplement what you're doing with Expedition Learn or with your other content as well. We also have some instructional strategies that are a little bit more broad, skill-based activities, as well as bell ringers and exit tickets, which when I was teaching, those were a lifesaver for me. I taught in a high school of about 3,000 students. One of the years I was teaching there, you can imagine the halls would get pretty congested, and I was teaching in 4 different classrooms throughout the course of the day. So bell ringers were my saving grace. They allowed me to give just a quick activity as students came into the room to really get the learning started while I was doing all of the administration things that I had to do, taking roll, writing my objectives on the board, making sure that I was getting things set up the way that I needed them. So we provide this kind of bank of resources and really good activities, just short activities that are built for transitions as well. So that's Teach Britannica, pairs really well with our Expedition Learn content also. So let's jump back into our slides here. And we're going to jump into social studies because we know that misinformation is not limited to the scientific world, right? We have misinformation across the spectrum. And so what I'm going to show you here in Expedition Learn, if I go up to the top of my page here, I'm going to go back to our Expedition Learn homepage. One of the things that I do like to point out here, these are, again, standards aligned lessons. So you can search by standards. They're built for grades 3 through 5 and grades 6 through 8. And then over here, we have a slider where you can toggle between your social studies and your science content. And so I'm going to go ahead and just show you our keyword search here, where we're going to look at some of the information about the executive branch. And you can see a wealth of resources here tying into US history, tying into civics, and government, and really providing kind of that truth-based background information for students as well. So I'll go back to our slide deck, and Jane is going to walk through one of our social studies lessons and talk through how this can really help to provide that context for students as well.
Yes, so the executive branch and how the US government functions has been in the news a lot lately. So we really want to help students break through the noise to understand civics, and that is more important than ever. If students are asking questions about these topics, as we're showing here, the executive branch lesson can really help. Similar to the science lessons, each social studies lesson includes a fact-based article and a lot of really rich graphics. The graphic here on the left breaks down an excerpt from the Constitution in really simple terms to help students build that knowledge. There's a text box in this lesson that addresses a common student question about why the Constitution only mentions the Army and the Navy. So we use our text boxes in several different ways, and one is to address common questions, and another, as we saw in the science lesson, is to present career connections. And this lesson also includes a technology-enhanced assessment question where students drag and drop answers into correct columns to demonstrate their knowledge. And then on the next slide, just as we saw in the science lessons, the graphics embedded in the social studies lessons are really rich and really help to students build that knowledge. They support the lesson content, and because of their depth, they could actually be used for mini lessons that would allow students to dig even deeper into a topic. So the graphic on the left is a comprehensive visual breakdown of the structure of the executive branch, again, providing that foundational knowledge for students. And then the table on the right lists real examples of how past presidents have used executive orders. And it shows how historical examples could be used to present information of this type in a nonpartisan way. And then here is another assessment question from the executive branch lesson where students apply their knowledge to a real world scenario. In this case, it's the formation of the TSA after September 11th. On the site, this question is an auto-graded multiple choice question type. It's based on the reading passage. But it can also be used as a jumping point for deeper thinking and analysis by using the question pyramid instructional strategy. And shown here on this slide, it's also a really good example of how Expedition Learn lessons can be used for a whole group instruction. So we have a lot of flexibility built into how teachers can use our lessons in the classroom. So in this example, teachers can display the question and then use annotation tools to walk students through the process of breaking down the scenario into the parts, using that question pyramid strategy of who, what, when, where, why, and how. And this strategy allows the students to explore the topic from various angles using these different question types. And then the students can practice this strategy on their own with current news stories. And we offer a downloadable question pyramid graphic organizer on Teach Britannica to help students organize their thoughts.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jane. Very thorough overview of kind of the mentality and how these lessons are developed. And Jane and her team, work tirelessly to make sure that, the content that we're putting into Expedition Learn is reliable, that it's accurate, that it's applicable to, current events and standards that teachers are teaching in the classroom. So thank you for walking us through that, Jane. For
Thank
folks
you,
that are
Chris.
on the call here, if you want to learn more, we do provide kind of content spotlights for Expedition Learn where we highlight specific content within the resource. Just by virtue of joining today's session, you will get the 2 lessons that we highlighted today. You'll get a content spotlight for both of those as part of our follow-up. So it'll provide a lot of the content that we went over, but also some additional information about how to really apply that lesson within the content that you're teaching. We also talked a little bit about Teach Britannica. As I mentioned, this ties in really well with our Britannica resources and provides some great classroom focused content to help extend the learning beyond the Expedition Learn platform as well. So if you go to teachbritannica.com, you can see all of our content that's been developed by our team. Evidence-based lessons, instructional strategies, graphic organizers, bell ringers, all of that good stuff available for educators as well. We do also have a special offer for Expedition Learn moving forward. So a time limited offer, but if you have any interest in getting a more personalized view of the product, if you want to pilot this and see what it looks like and how it could work for your students, I will put a QR code up at the end that has some information that you can fill out, and our team will definitely reach out to you to answer any further questions you have about the Expedition Learn resource. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and open things up for questions. So, if anyone has any questions from the chat, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we will open things up to the crowd here. So let us know if you have any questions about anything we talked about today and things that we can address here. All right. Do you see a question coming through the Q&A here? So are the lessons standards correlated? Jane, I'll kick that one over to you. How do we address standards alignment in Expedition Learn?
Yes, all of the lessons are correlated to state, the next generation science standards, or what, if applicable, the C3 framework standards for the social studies lessons. So those correlations are listed in the teacher guides that are available with each lesson. And then also we have a standard search function on site where you can enter, look at the standards correlations for each lesson.
Thank you. All right, another one in the Q&A here. How could I use Expedition Learn in a classroom with one device? So if your students and as you can see when we demoed, it's student focused, but how could we use this for larger group instruction?
Yeah, so we showed one example of that during the social studies presentation part where we showed the annotation of the online question. So that's one way to use our lessons if there's only one device in the classroom, projecting the material, working as in groups or small groups. We can also print, there's print function from the site where the teacher could print out graphics or even the articles or parts of articles and use those for mini lessons, and even pair those with a Teach Britannica graphic organizer to make a really nice mini lesson. And then also the site works on all mobile devices, smartphones, tablets, computers. So there's that flexibility as well.
And that really speaks to, I mean, we had a district that we worked with out in California that they purchased Expedition Learn, and they didn't want students to use their devices because they were going to use it as a supplemental resource for some of their after school or their credit recovery instruction. And device fatigue was a concern that they had, right? That how can we try to do this in a larger group, and actually kind of took it in the direction of having a project-based approach. So kind of
Mm.
using Expedition Learn as the basis for that project-based mentality, project-based learning, and really kind of using that as their information. And then students were encouraged to extend beyond the platform as well. But it's great to hear kind of suggestions for how it can be used in really some different formats as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Jane, one more question for you. Someone noticed the drag and drop and seemed to like that one. So the question was, what other types of question formats does Expedition Learn have?
Oh gosh, we have multiple choice, multi-select. We have container drag and drop. We have fill in the blank where they can drag items or pick items from a drop-down menu. We have highlight text. So that's where students can read a passage and then highlight particular sections of it as applicable. So lots of various types that hopefully line up with some formats that students might see on high stakes tests. We also have order lists and categorizing, matching, so several question format types embedded in our Expedition Learn lessons.
Awesome. And yeah, I think that's a an important thing to call out is, having students become familiar with different question types and different ways of manipulating technology. Because like you said, a lot of their high stakes, their state, their local, their district assessments might include questions like that, right? It's not all just multiple choice these days. So
Mm-hmm,
really getting them familiar with those different formats, and how
mm-hmm.
they can, you know, better prepare themselves for what's to come. So
Absolutely.
awesome.
We also have a short answer type, a format where students actually are practicing writing.
Very good. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we don't have to hold anyone hostage here for the next 14 minutes. So, thank you everyone who joined our session today. Like I said, if you're interested in some more information, you want to learn about our special offer or get a personalized demo, please scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to britannicaeducation.com/expedition-learn, and it'll take you to our site with more information about the resource, and you can reach out to our team that way as well. So I will leave this up here on the screen. But again, on behalf of Dr. Jane King and myself, I want to thank you all for joining today, and hope that you all have a great rest of your Thursday and a great Memorial Day weekend as well.
Hi, everyone.